Good afternoon. I'm Megan Sumner from NASA Public Affairs, and we are here at Johnson Space Center. Thank you for joining us for the Expedition 53 and 54 Crew News Conference. They will be launching to the International Space Station from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan on September 13th on a 5.5-month mission to space. Today's news conference will look at the work and research the crew will be doing for that half of the year. To my right is NASA astronaut Mark Vande, who will be a flight engineer for Expeditions 53 and 54. Mark is a retired colonel in the U.S. Army and was selected as an astronaut in 2009. He came to Johnson Space Center to be a capsule communicator, actually before being selected as an astronaut, and then continued that job after his general astronaut training. Next, we have NASA astronaut Joe Acaba. Joe will be a flight engineer for Expeditions 53 and 54. This will be Joe's third trip to the space station and his second long-duration mission. He flew aboard Space Shuttle Discovery on STS-119 in 2009, then Expeditions 31 and 32 in 2012. He's logged a total of 138 days in space during his 2 flights. Finally, we're happy to welcome veteran cosmonaut Alexander Misurkin from Roscosmos, who will be the commander of Soyuz spacecraft MS-06. He will serve as a flight engineer for Expedition 53 and the commander of Expedition 54. Misurkin spent 166 days in space on his first flight as part of Expedition 35 and 36. The crew will talk a little bit about their upcoming mission, and then we will take questions from the room and from the phone for them. With that, let me turn to Mark Vande. Mark, can you tell us about some of the major highlights for your upcoming mission?
Sure. We're going to be in space from September 13th till about February 23rd, and during that time, the primary objective for us is doing lots of science, both to help further NASA's exploration goals and to serve the needs of the country now, to help people on the ground with as a national laboratory. We're going to have several visiting vehicles, both from we'll have Cygnus vehicles and Dragon vehicles during that time. There's possibility of an EVA, but really, because we're going to be up there so long, we're just ready for whatever the planners give us.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. With that, let's go to Joe Acaba. Now, Joe, usually the training schedule is a couple of years, but you were just assigned to this mission a couple of months ago. So your training has been a little bit condensed, even though you have been to the space station before. So can you tell us a little bit about that schedule, how it's going, any challenges that you've faced?
Yeah, I got pretty lucky with a 6-month training program. I don't think anybody will argue with me, but it's going really well. I'm about halfway through. Luckily, I'm flying with experienced and very capable crew members. And before I started, NASA and all of the international partners got together. They put together a really nice plan on what's required for me to be safe and then also to execute the mission. So it's going great. It's busy but fun.
Awesome. All right, Alexander, can you tell us a little bit about the mission from your perspective?
From my perspective, at the beginning, we were scheduled to fly in March. After that, something was changed, and now we're scheduled to fly, as Mark said, in September. We're talking about it a lot. We're preparing a lot. Even I know that for Mark and for Joe now it's pretty tough schedule, and they are very, very busy. But for me, it's like I have a distance. Like a sportsman, you have a distance. You know where is your final line. You start running, and after that you say, hey, you know what? We decided to add some more. And now I just looking forward to work with these guys in a real space program and real flight.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's great to hear that. All right, we'll now take some questions from the crew. We'll start with questions here in the room at Johnson Space Center, then questions on the phone bridge, and finally questions from social media. If you have a question on social media, you can submit it using #AskNASA. For those on the phone bridge, please press *1 if you have a question and *2 to withdraw your question if it's already been answered. Here in the room, we have reporters, and we also have some special guests with us. We have educators from Houston and Dallas schools. Actually, Joe and Mark both have some teaching experience. Mark was an assistant professor of physics at the United States Military Academy in West Point, and he plans to connect with physics teachers during his mission. Joe taught 5 years of middle and high school math and science in Florida, And we're excited that our local educators are here with us today and to really show the special emphasis of education, especially for this crew. You'll be allowed one question and a follow-up. So as a reminder, please state your name and who you're with when we call on you. So we'll start here in the room. Reporters, right there.
Hi, my name is Catherine Olger, and I'm a teacher at Sharpstown International in Houston ISD. I'm asking a question on behalf of one of my seniors named Ivan. He wants to know what obstacles you've faced in your journey to becoming an astronaut, and if you had the chance to do it all over again, would you, and what would you do differently?
That's a great question.
Should I start?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say the first obstacle to becoming an astronaut for me was believing it was something that I could do. Honestly, I always thought of astronauts as superheroes, and I put that becoming an astronaut in the same category as me becoming a professional football player or becoming Spider-Man. It was something that I just didn't think was possible. And thankfully, my wife really encouraged me to go for it, because you just got to try. And that's really a big lesson, I think, for all of us is push away that self-doubt and go for it. And the next question I already forgot. What was the other part?
If you could do it all over again, would you, and what would you do differently?
I would absolutely do it again. I would start earlier.
You'll be Spider-Man on orbit.
I'll start.
You can do all of that stuff. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Do Joe or Alexander want to answer?
You know, Mark made a good point. It's believing that you can actually do something. There's all kinds of obstacles that you have, so you kind of just take it one step at a time. And I would just tell people, pick something that you really love to do, because then it's not really like work. And so, you know, there's a lot of different astronauts that we have in the office, and we all have had our struggles, but we all enjoy our professions, and we love being astronauts.
If you would like me also answer this question. For me, it was a dream, child dream. When I was 12 years old, I decided it was just the goal of my professional was coming up in my mind. It was in the class. I'm very grateful to teacher who taught this class, because when I realized I would like to be a cosmonaut. After that, I came to my teacher and said, Natalia Vladimirovna, her name, I wanted to be a cosmonaut. What I have to do? And she was absolutely serious, and she said, it was a brainstorm for her for 30 seconds, but she gave a strategy plan for me for all my life, which I performed. After that, I was so grateful to her, and as Joe and Mark said, you have to do what you really like to do, really on the bottom of your heart. If you have something, wishes to do something, you don't think like, probably I will not able to do that, or somebody else will born for this profession. Just go forward, no doubts at all, and you will reach success.
So that's the power of a school teacher.
Exactly.
That's what you guys do every day.
That's right.
Exactly.
All right, another question?
My name is Marcy Stenvola, and I'm a teacher at Sepultura Middle School in Pearl, Atlanta, and I teach gifted and talented sixth graders. This question for you is this. I know you guys spend a lot of time up there on the ISS. You're up there for what, at least 6 months, correct? Okay, so what are the most important attributes and skills needed to live on the ISS?
Well, I'd say one of them is getting along with others. People always think about, like Mark said, astronauts are people that are super smart, but really today when we're looking at hiring astronauts, we want people that are nice, because we have to live together for 6 months in a 5-bedroom house. The Soyuz is about this big, so it's just getting along with each other. So that's one of the most important attributes.
Awesome, thank you. We have another question over here, Mark.
Oh, thank you very much. Mark Corot for Aviation Week. And this is for Mark or Joe, but I think we're coming up on some dynamic months for a commercial crew as we get into, especially into 2018. And I just wondered what you all have prepared to do to advance the project in terms of spacewalks or just anything inside the station or
Tracking the IDA stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of this work it's already started putting on the international adapters for the vehicles to come up. A lot of the future spacewalks are looking at that as well and preparing those. So for our mission in particular, at this time we don't know specifically what we'll be doing directly for that. But the work we're doing up there is all in preparation for those vehicles coming up.
Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com. Just to follow up on that, with regards to both the potential arrival of the first Crew Dragon without a crew and the potential arrival of Nauka, the MLM, when you are working with this type of uncertainty that you don't know if it's coming or not, how much effort do you put into training for that provision, and how do you balance what you know you're going to do versus what you might do?
I can take that one. So I think we really don't have a lot of decision making about it. The planners look at the situation we're going to be faced with, and they're making some good guesses about they need to be ready for these things. For example, you mentioned the MLM. I just recently had 4 hours of training or so on the MLM when I was in Russia. So fortunately for us, there are people that are managing the program and looking far enough into the future to make sure they're forecasting what our training needs are, and then we're just getting trained on what our schedulers tell us to get trained on.
Another question?
Yes, Eric Berger with Ars Technica. Hi. Just a question about expanding the number of U.S. International crew members on station. How will that allow you to expand activities on the station?
Yeah, I think it's going to make a huge difference. So right now, having 4 USOS crew members on board, it gives you a lot more opportunities not only to maintain the space station, but then do the science that really we're up there for. And I think the number I heard is somewhere around 800 more hours of utilization. And so that's a big chunk of science that we're going to be able to do by adding an extra crew member. So it's pretty cool.
Hi, Sophie Sanchez. I write for Cosmic Chicago with Chicago Now. I had a question. As teachers, former teachers, there's a lot of student science payloads that are headed up. I was wondering if you had a particular payload that you were excited to work on, and what advice you had for students that would like to have some future research on the ISS.
I'll be honest with you, I don't have a particular student science payload that that's coming to mind right now. In fact, one of the benefits of our science program becoming more efficient is that we're becoming more responsive to the customers. So we don't have a requirement for as much lead time to have the experiments ready. So we actually haven't gotten the final list of the experiments we're going to be working on, and we're expecting to get that for the first time in June. So.
And I would tell those students to dream big. A lot of the science that we have going on, they discover things that they didn't even expect to discover. So you kind of go in with the plan, and you never know what's going to come out of it. So for the kids that are putting these payloads together, just think of crazy stuff that you want to know and see if it'll work up in space.
Great. All right, next question.
Hi, I'm Kathy Heyman. I teach at Barbers Hill Middle School. Okay, so I teach middle school. So This is for Joe. They want to know, what is the funniest or weirdest thing that's happened to you when you're in space?
That's a great middle school question, which is why I loved middle school. And the one thing we joke a lot about, but kids always want to know, how do you go to the bathroom in space? And so that's weird. It is weird going to the bathroom in space. But when you look at it, the engineering behind it is just incredible. So you go from, urinating, and next thing you know, you're drinking your reclaimed water. So I think for a lot of kids, that's weird. But it's a technology we use on the ISS, but we can also use it here on Earth in very remote areas. So I think going to the bathroom and then drinking your own urine is kind of weird.
Yep, absolutely. All right, next question.
Hi, Lisa Marie Sapola, Reed Academy for Engineering and Aldine ISD. The square peg in a round hole is a famous example of astronauts finding a solution under pressure. So I wanted to ask on behalf of my students, do you have a story you could share about a time that you felt you were facing an impossible problem but ended up finding a solution? Preferably each of you, if you could give a brief story.
Wow.
I can start if you
Please,
like.
yes.
If I go wrong way, if I understand your question not exactly, you will please correct me. When I was preparing for our third EVA in previous mission, it was some unpredictable task. We lost some special cover on Russian segment, outside of Russian segment, and we have to find out all others this cover and screw it back if they also ready to be lost. And for me, it was decision how to fix the screwdriver, because it's not special tool for extra vehicle activity. It was just normal screwdriver. And I thought all our equipment is attached to our extra vehicle spacesuit. And I had to decide how to fix this device, which was not specially prepared for spacewalk. I thought maybe I can use a Velcro and put one side to the spacesuit, another one to the screwdriver, and keep it on myself. And after that, I start thinking, hold on, the temperature is going plus minus 100 degrees. Will it be flowing away, and I will rotate with all my screwdriver and completely failed with this task? Or might be it will like a pancake on the pan without oil. Actually, it was a US equipment. I didn't want to spoil it as well. And I had just make a right choice without any enough information at that time. Like Sergei Pavlovich Korolev, it's our Russian general constructor who built Russian space program 50 years ago. Sometimes when we were preparing for flying to the moon, and was very strong argue what kind of surface is on the moon. Is it hard or smooth or like some kind of else? But constructors should develop special device for landing. And there was no answer. And he write, the moon is hard, and sign it. It was just taken decision. For me, of course, I'm not as big as he, but for me, it was just taken decision. I put this Velcro and hope I was right. What do you think? Was I right or not? Is it flow away or still keeping with me? What do you think?
Physics teachers?
Yeah. What do you think? Yeah. It was almost like pancake without the oil, but finally I was able to remove it after EVA. So sometimes you have to take decision even if you do not have enough information to make a choice.
Awesome. Joe or Mark, would you like to tell a challenge that you faced?
I got a story, but it's got nothing to do with being an astronaut. It's more.
That's great.
That's good.
Okay, so this is like 25 years ago. I was in the Army, and I was supposed to clear a helicopter landing zone. If you want to land a helicopter in a field, there shouldn't be a street light, for example, sticking up in the middle of it, or a telephone pole. And sure enough, I can't remember what type of pole it was, but there was a pole there. And I was an engineer officer, so I spent a lot of time getting trained on how to use explosives to remove obstacles, like something like that. Except in this operational environment, we didn't get given any explosives. So I didn't know what to do. But fortunately for me, there was an armored personnel carrier parked nearby. I just knocked on the side. A guy popped his head up, and I said, hey, do you think you could push over that pole? And he was super excited to give it a shot. And it worked. He just pushed it over, and that helicopter landing zone was cleared.
Wow.
Good job.
Awesome.
That's my story.
It's good.
You're always a good storyteller.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, up on orbit on my last mission, we had something similar with the spacewalk where my crew members, Sunny and Aki, were outside trying to remove a power box, and on the first EVA, they just could not remove it. So after attempting it over and over again, they came back in, and it was pretty cool on what Mission Control did here. Within 48 hours, they came up with new tools that had not gone out before. You probably saw the pictures of a toothbrush, and so people were just creative on how can we fix the problem. And again, it's thinking big and not saying anything is impossible and let's try this. So it was pretty neat having a day to put these weird tools together. They went back out, they used them and got rid of the box. So it was a testament to all the work that people do here on the ground.
Awesome. Great stories. Thank you. Next question.
Hello, Juan de la Garza with Spaceflight Insider. Just wanted to ask, in reference to the new budget that's been in place by our new Commander-in-Chief, as you all know, President Donald Trump, how will that affect the continued service of the International Space Station beyond the last projected date?
So the good thing about being in training is that that's what we focus on is training. So that's the good part. But what I know from the budget is it satisfies NASA's needs in the short term. And in terms of keeping the space station through 2024, we have that budget in place. So I think we're looking pretty good right now.
All right. Next question.
Hi, I'm Kara McGarvey, and I teach 8th grade science at League City Intermediate.
Very brave.
Yeah, thank you. And I do have some students that are quite sincere in wanting to become an astronaut. And so some of their questions are, they know that in the past it's been very common for astronauts to have military backgrounds, and they're wanting to know what are the pros as of right now of still pursuing a military career, and or do you think it would be better just to maybe skip over that?
So I think if you're somebody who thinks they would enjoy being in the military and feel like, and I'm really talking about being in a position where you're participating in something bigger than you are and it's really a service to your country, that's the only time you should do that. If the only reason you did that is because you're hoping it would make you be an astronaut, that's a bad decision. Now, from the perspective of having a lot of astronauts from the military, you certainly, as a military service member, get a lot of experience working in teams, in environments where you have to look out for the well-being of each other. Those are all things that have a direct carryover to being an astronaut. But astronauts, NASA needs to pull astronauts from a wide variety of backgrounds. And so, like Joe mentioned earlier, it's really important to figure out what it is that you love and do it really passionately, recognizing that you might hope to become an astronaut, but the chances are so slim that you really shouldn't base your definition of success or failure for your life on getting that opportunity. Ideally, in the path as you try to reach for that, you'll have had a very happy life and done a lot of wonderful things that you're very proud of, regardless of whether or not the results in this job.
Great. All right, now we'll take some questions from the phone bridge. Again, please press *1 if you have a question and *2 to withdraw your question if it's already been answered. We have a question from Mark Gotch from the Historical Aerospace News Media. Mark? All right, I think Mark dropped off. Bill Harwood from CBS News. Bill? How about Sarah Lewin?
They're all talking somewhere.
All right, well, we'll head over to social media questions, and then we'll try that again. We have Haley here in the room to answer some questions from social media. If you do have a question, you can ask using #AskNASA. Haley?
Okay, Sabra on Twitter is asking, what is one thing you wished you had known as a young student that would have helped you better prepare for your career?
How to communicate with social media.
There you go.
That's why he's our commander.
And I would say how to speak Russian better. How to speak a foreign language.
This is being asked on Twitter. Miss Joyce is asking on behalf of her 6th grade class, would you be able to see pollution from space?
Yes, you can definitely see pollution. When I was up last time, we had the big forest fires going on in the kind of the Colorado area, and it was amazing to see how big of an area that the smoke will travel from the source of the fire. And so it is very easy to see that. If there is some kind of a disaster event on Earth, we're notified so we can take pictures and help the folks on the ground, battle that. So you can definitely see the impact that humans have on the planet from up in space.
For right now from Eddie on Twitter, and he is asking, are you still eating out of toothpaste tubes?
We do. I mean, most of our food's not, but there is some food that comes out. Some of the jellies, especially our Russian partners have, that if you were to look at it, it looks like a tube of toothpaste, but it tastes really good. So the food has really come a long way, and it's not, I think, what you see in some of the older movies where you're eating, meatloaf out of a tube.
Now it's meatloaf out of a bag.
Yeah, it's out of a bag.
Now it's more freeze-dried, and you put water in it and heat it up, and it tastes good, right?
That's good.
All right. All right, we're going to try the phone bridge again. Mark Gotch, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hard in training for this mission, and it's going to be a very important historical mission. As I understand it, this will be the first time that you will perform test flights on Boeing's Starliner and SpaceX's Crew Dragon capsule. Can you tell me more about these tests now that the IDA adapter, docking adapter ring is in place, and these are going to be sent to you? Can you tell me the capsule tests themselves, more about them? How far will they go away from the space station? How many of you will be on board, etc.? Can you expand and tell me much more about these tests, as this will be the first time this is being done?
I don't know. We're not having...
Right, so I think during the time period that we're up there, we're not anticipating any of those commercial vehicles arriving at that time. So like Mark said earlier, we kind of train for what we anticipate. So not thinking it's going to arrive before we come back in the February timeframe. Unfortunately, I just can't answer a lot to that question.
All right. Thanks. All right, and do we have Bill Harwood from CBS News on the line?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. A real quick question for Alexander Misurkin. I noticed that a few veteran cosmonauts had left the Corps recently, and I was just wondering how all that's going. Is it simply a matter of there's fewer flights and people didn't want to stay around, or is this just a coincidence of timing? And I have a follow-up.
Thank you so much for this question. It's very funny for me to hear that I'm a veteran. Probably it's connected with not a lot of hair on my head. Because in my first flight, I had known that I was the youngest guy on ISS station from that time when ISS this program was started. And already I'm a veteran. It's thank you. I'm not ready for that so far. Actually, I would say that everybody here and in Russia the same. We are growing. We are growing like a professional, like a person, like step by step every day. And all of these cosmonauts. I would actually say that they are veterans and they're much more professional than me, but probably they decided that they already make enough flight for themselves to space, and there was not any possibility for them to work like a manager at the same time. And that's why it was their choice, from my perspective. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And your
Thanks.
follow-up?
A quick follow-up, if I can, for both Mark and Joe. For Mark, tell us a little bit about, on a personal level, what you're looking forward to about this flight, and for Joe, what are you looking forward to getting a second chance at up in space? Thanks.
Okay, so from a personal level, we've spent so much time, everybody but Joe has, spent so much time preparing for this. And I'd actually say Joe's been preparing for this for the last
been here for a long time.
13 years in some way or another. But we've been training specifically for this upcoming launch for so long that I'm really looking forward to getting to work. And I'm really excited to live with these gentlemen and the crew that's going to be there on the station when we arrive, and the crew that we're going to receive later in our mission. And frankly, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the view is like.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, it's always good to go back, and what's really interesting about the long duration flights is that you don't know what's going to happen every day. So every day is a challenge. You don't know what's going to break. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next increment brings up. Something else is that, being an educator, I think we're going to take this opportunity to do more educational outreach. And the other cool part is that I'll be going in September to the February timeframe, and then we have another educator, Ricky Arnold, who's going right after me. So we were just talking about this earlier. It's almost an entire school year of having educators in space. So I think it's going to be a neat time for us to do outreach, to work with teachers and also with students.
That will be very exciting. Thank you. All right, do we have more questions here in the room?
Hi, my name is Eric Peterson. I'm a 6th grade science teacher at Fowler Middle School in Frisco ISD. And my 6th grader, Shruti Gupta, wants to know if you could make any improvements to any simulation you've done, what would it be?
Improvements to simulation. The first thing that comes to mind is making the MBL more comfortable.
You kind of beat me to it. So we do, you probably saw some of the photos where we do a lot of the training for spacewalks in a really big pool. And it's really, really good training, and it's about as good as you can get on Earth. But it would be nice to have a microgravity environment here on Earth that you could train on that we don't have, even though the pool is really, really good. The other thing is that, again, dealing with microgravity, you can't train how to float in space. And when you work in space, the tools, if you don't do something with them, they will float away. And so everything you have to do, you have to think about, okay, I'm going to put this down on a piece of Velcro, I'm going to put this on a piece of tape, and we just can't do that for long periods of time here. So it would be nice to have a little microgravity button that we could push and watch things float around and learn how to deal with that.
Now, what I would like to do is talk about a simulation that was really, really good, that I was excited about. One of the things we do in that virtual reality lab that I mentioned earlier is learn about mass handling. And in the MBL, when you move something, including yourself, there's water resistance all the time. So even though from a physics perspective, once you start something moving in space, it's going to keep moving. You never get that experience in the MBL. You always have to work to continue maintaining your momentum through the water. But in this virtual reality lab, I had what the computer was set up to simulate as being a 1,000-pound object. And again, I could see my hands. I was holding onto handles. I couldn't see my hands. I was seeing space and this object in space on the space station. And I was trying to move it. And I realized that once I got it to just move a little bit, it would keep going. And all I had to do was I didn't have to keep holding it and squeezing it hard and keep dragging it along. I just had to put my fingers on it and just wait until it got to the right spot and then very gently stop it and then move it down. I thought that was so fun.
It was cool to see. I've been there. All right, another question?
Hi, I'm Linda Limbaugh. I teach 6th grade at Hamilton Middle School at HISD. Now, when I lived in Alaska, I remember reading the Anchorage Daily News, and sometimes the headlines for real life sounded like science fiction, like the sunset for the year in Barrow, Alaska. So I'm curious for Joe and Alexander, what kind of headlines would you have for the ISS Daily News for real life that might sound to us like science fiction?
Wow.
Good question.
See, I'm a geologist, so I'm not the most creative guy out there. Man.
Could you one more to say this question for me?
So if you had to make a news headline on what's happening in space that seems unreal but is real?
Okay, I have an answer.
See, that's why I always start with him.
It's a good team.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Teamwork.
Do you remember, Linda, about these little pieces of cover which we were talking about a couple minutes before? How we realized that we have some kind of problem. Fedor Yurchikhin, which is in space right now, and I, we were preparing for our EVA. We were preparing for our third EVA, and we were in the docking compartment, and one moment our commander appears and say, "Hey, come on, guys!" And he said it in such a way which we don't usually use, like a very strong decision of commander. In this case, we understand something happened, and we stopped working and immediately running after to him. And he showed us behind our big window in the Russian segment, we saw something is flowing around, not near to station, but we understand it should not be. Actually, I understood that moment that it's something which was separated from station. I was not sure was it from Russian segment, from US segment, but for me it was obviously it's something from us. And my colleagues started to make a picture of it. I decided, for what reason I need to take a third cameras and do the same. Let's flew to Chris Cassidy and tell him that we have something flowing around us. And I came to him and said, "Chris, you know, we have something around station. Take a look. Maybe it's yours." He said, "Oh, take a picture as well." I do not know who put this picture to internet,
Oh, no.
but next day there was some kind of highlight. You say highlight, right?
Headline.
Like there is some huge
UFO
around the station, International Space Station, flying. I think this one highlight was doing, unfortunately, by us. Thank you so much.
That's great. All right, we have another question over here.
Yes, this is Sana Handen from Milby High School in Houston ISD. Since we have two physics teachers in the among you, I have this question. Whenever I teach AP physics and regular physics, when we study circular motion and talk about a gravity simulated environment, my students ask me why they don't do that. It is why they don't simulate a gravity environment in the station. So, can you help me?
I would say the answer to that is that we actually do.
Mm-hmm.
There's science experiments where we can, based on circular motion, we can simulate that force towards the center of the circle as and change the amount of it by how quickly we're spinning a small object. So we can choose to have an experiment done where everything is floating, or an experiment done where it's attached to the outside of a circle and it's spinning around. And the faster that thing spins, the more it's going to seem like a surface that's whatever amount of gravity we want, basically.
Yeah, I'm saying about the environment for you.
Okay. So I think what my understanding is, and I'm not an expert on this at all, but because as human beings, we recognize when we're spinning. It can be very nauseating if it's not a really, really, really big circle that we're on. So I think the idea of having a space station that's got where we're living on a large circle, and we can live on the surface like on the Earth, would be great. I just have no idea how big it would have to be before people would be able to tolerate it.
Very interesting.
My name is Cameron McCall. I'm a physics teacher at Scarborough High School in HISD. So my main question is, for the months leading up to the launch, what are some mental and physical preparations and challenges that y'all face? And then I have a follow-up.
Well, there's so of course you have that last minute training that you have to take care of. So they keep us really, really busy with that. But when you start getting to the personal side, it's that's a lot of times the hard part is dealing with the family. For us, we get to go up into space and we have a great time, and it's, we're living a dream, but it's your family that is here on Earth that is really, they're suffering a lot more than we are. So I think dealing with that emotional part of it takes quite a bit of your time. So you're trying to focus on the mission and do the technical, but you also realize that you have your family at home that you want to spend that time with.
I agree.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lauren Baird, and I teach physics and engineering at Energy Institute in HISD. And I was just wondering what kind of experiments are currently being done on the International Space Station, and which are you most excited about to me?
I'm excited about the experiments where we're actually part of the experiment ourselves. There's a lot of human. We had to sign up for a lot of experiments. I just learned. Again, I don't really know the set list of experiments that are going to be available, but I just yesterday got trained on the combustion facility. We're learning about how we're getting a better model of how combustion works by taking out that independent variable of gravity. And hopefully that'll result in more efficient ways to burn fuels or better fuels. But I certainly thought it was a very, very well-engineered facility. I was really impressed with how it was put together and how it was really set up to be maintained fairly easily.
And if I can just add, we learned about this app, so I'm going to put a plug in to a NASA app because it is pretty cool. And if I say it wrong, correct me. But I think it's the Space Station Research Explorer, and it's pretty cool because you can go through. And if you're interested in biology, you can look in that area. If you want to look at, fire and how that works and what experiments NASA has done, all of that is there. And when you look at the amount of science that we've done, it's pretty impressive. So I would recommend, especially for students, to pull that thing up. It's not boring. It's actually pretty cool, and I think there's a lot to learn from going to that app.
That's great. Yeah, the crew will have hundreds of experiments during their mission, all different disciplines. And the app is perfect. You can learn more about it also on the ISS Research website. And they have a Twitter as well that they post updates of the experiments the crew is doing every single day. So, yeah. Great. We have another question in the audience. Anybody in the room?
I can ask, after the obvious friends and family, things like that.
Oh, sorry.
After the obvious of friends and family, what's one thing you'll miss most about being here? Is like ice cream, candy bars, driving, just something like that you can think of that you'll miss on a daily basis?
For me, I think it would probably be sunshine, quite honestly.
You'll get a lot of sun. It's just a little bit different. But really, I think that is, and Sasha may say something similar, is that it's pretty comfortable living on the ISS. We have kind of the normal comforts that you have here. The food is pretty good, but the one thing you don't get is the weather. Like Mark is saying, is that, we see the sun come up and down, those 15, 16 times a day, and you see all of that, but you don't get that wind. And when you get out of that capsule after a few months on the ISS, just feeling, the wind, smelling the grass, all of that, we can't get that up on the ISS.
I definitely agree with Joe, and what I can add, if we're talking about some little things according to our normal life, you very, very missing a pillow and some feeling that you have a bed when you're trying to sleep, because you are flying inside of a sleeping bag, and you just fly, still flying. For me, it was, of course, unusual, and I was trying to keep such pose to feel at least a wall to which my sleeping bag was attached. My commander used some special fur sacks, which Russia provide. We call it untyata, and he take one of them.
Put it inside out?
Yeah, put it inside out. Put a second one inside. It was like a Christmas socks, put this side and fur outside. Give it to me. I say, for what reason? this is a pillow. It was flowing behind my head, and sometimes when you touch it, oh, really, thank you, Pavel Vladimirovich. It's very comfortable. Some normal, yeah, I definitely agree that our space food very tasty, but anyway, in some time you starting missing your home food. Of course, your relatives and just little things which we have every day, and we don't understand how it's important for us until we lost them, even for a while.
Great. All right, do we have a couple more questions from social media?
Yes. Patrick is wondering, what advancements have been made during the past years that put your mind at ease, or make the journey more fun?
They got an espresso machine up there, 3D printer.
Yes.
More fun, maybe.
Keep going.
I don't know.
You're doing great. That's awesome. Yeah, you're right. Those are.
You know, a lot of the advancements we look at, you know, a lot of them are kind of more, you know, science-based, you know, looking at, you know, human health, coming up with drugs that will, you know, help us as we get older, dealing with the bones and things like that. So while it's probably not fun like a 3D printer, I think for those that need some of those discoveries, you know, for them, I'm sure it's very, very fun.
Do you mind if I add something to
No.
that too? So from a work perspective, you can imagine the ground team is an expert at getting all these tasks done, and they have to communicate those procedures to us. And if anybody's putting something together from IKEA, I guess, is IKEA just pictures? Anyway, forget that. Well, but it kind of leads into it, because sometimes it's really hard to communicate something that is very simple. And lately, we've been embedding more and more frequently videos into the procedures. So that's a development that's helped us out a lot.
Great. All right.
And we have one more from a 6th grade class in Ontario. And they are wondering, what do you do for fun when you are in space?
You want to start?
After you.
Okay. So being in space, just being there is fun. Like we were talking about earlier, you know, being Spider-Man or Superman, flying around is the coolest thing ever. So you never get tired of that microgravity environment. Every morning I would wake up and float out of my crew quarters, and it was just this weird feeling just to push yourself across the lab. So that's a whole lot of fun and very relaxing. Looking out the window, you have a view you can't get anywhere else on Earth, so I don't think we ever get tired of that. But we also have, you know, the usual, we watch movies, you have a telephone, you can call your family and friends, but just living up there every day is pretty fun.
Definitely agree with Joe, and according to the view on Earth, when I came to station and have some motion sickness, and my crewmates prepared my sleeping bag, let me just sleep. When I wake up, our commander, Chris Hatfield, say, "Hello, Sasha, follow me, I will show you something." We came to the cupola, and we were, I would say, висели, I would say, just like a bird on the wire, and looking at the Earth. And it was a quiet, and I was very quiet, speaking with myself. I can't believe I'm here. And it was not his first flight, and he already spent some few months for this particular flight. Start talking with, like with me. I can't believe too. It's so amazing view of our planet. Even if we have very tough schedule there for work, I decided for relax somehow. I need somehow to relax, and I decided to make a evening walk. I mean, meaning looking at the Earth. Usually, when you take a look at the Earth and you see it's so beautiful, you try keep the camera trying to make a picture. You see that picture is not so good as you can see it by your eyes. Trying to do something with the settings, And in this process, you are not relaxing. You just keep going with the work. I decided, no, before I'm going to the bed, sleeping bag, I'm just relaxing. I came to the cupola, see something beautiful, say, oh, I need to take a picture. Stop. Just take a look and relax. And one more thing, except the view to the Earth. Once I was asking to make a picture of a drop of water which should be frozen. Which shape it will be? There are a lot of physical teachers. What do you think? If water is liquid, everybody knows in 0 G it will be just a sphere. But if we froze it, what kind of shape it will be? What do you think?
You stumped them.
Sorry. Okay, I will answer.
Now you teachers know what it's like when you ask the question and nobody responds.
At the beginning, I said, what is the interest to do that? Of course, it will still be a sphere. But when I did this picture, it was interesting for me to realize it's not exactly a sphere. It has some surfaces. It was like
crystallizes, or?
It was not like a square, but still it was not a round thing. It has some kind of surfaces. And I thought it was connected with some little pieces of something inside water, which tried to make a crystal. It was very funny to me to realize that. And you may ask your student how to froze this drop of water in space, because there are a lot of flowing. Even if you have some drop of water, how to fix it in the refrigerator? It's a very nice task for a student to guess how to do that. Thank you.
All right, we have time for one more question. Let's go back to the phone bridge. Mark Gotch with Historical Aerospace News Media.
Yes, gentlemen. Again, I want to say this also. Mark, it's your first mission, as I understand it, up to the ISS. I hope it goes very well for you. I'm sure you must be very excited. Yes. And also, when it comes to the Bigelow expandable crew transport module, will you be doing any different experiments with it since it's been up there? It's been fully inflated now. Will you be doing something different with it on this mission when all three of you go up?
I'm not tracking anything specific. Do you know? Are you aware?
No, I mean, they're still looking at the properties of the module and how it's behaving up there, and looking at how we might use that type of technology in the future. But I don't think we have anything.
I haven't had any training on it quite.
All right. Well, we're really excited for you guys. We're excited to see you up there and to track your mission and keep up with all the great work that you'll be doing. And I want to thank you guys especially for being with us today and sharing your mission and your experiences. And everybody here in the room, thank you so much for being here and asking your wonderful questions, and just for being part of the Crew News Conference. You can follow Mark during the mission on social media. He will be tweeting from @astro_Sabot. SABOT. And you can also follow the International Space Station, updates from their mission and updates from things that are happening in space every day on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And for more information on the space station, you can visit www.nasa.gov/station. Thank you so much for joining us.